In this video, we are going to review converting decimals to fractions and also converting fractions back to decimals. So before we do that, we are going to review our decimal place value. Okay, so just to review, our decimal point, right there, right to the left of our decimal point is our ones place, and then to the left of that is our tens. It's a little bit different when we go to the right of the decimal point. It starts with our tenths, our hundredths, then our thousands. It would go on to 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, and would just keep going on and on. So just for a little bit of practice, if we had the decimal 0.25, we would read this 0 and 25 hundredths. This is because our last number is located in the hundredths place. I'll do another example of this. If we had 1.006, this number would be read 1 and 6 thousandths. We know this because our 6 is located in the thousandths place. Okay, now that we have reviewed a little bit, we'll just do some examples of converting decimals to fractions. So our first example is going to be 0.5. So when we are turning decimals into fractions, it's really quite simple as long as you know your place value. Okay, in class we practice to just say the decimal out loud. That'll basically tell us exactly what to write. So we would read this decimal 0 and 5 tenths because the 5 is located in the tenths place. When we are writing decimals as fractions, we use that language that we just said when we were reading the decimal. So we have 5 and it's located in the tenths place, so our denominator is going to be a 10. So that's how we would write 5 tenths as a fraction. But we aren't going to leave it this way because we see that 5 tenths can be simplified. The common factor of 5 and 10 is 5. So we will divide both the numerator and denominator by 5 to simplify our fraction. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 5 tenths would be equal to 1/2. Our next example is 0.022. We would read this as 0 and 22 thousandths because our 2 is in the thousandths place. From here we can write our fraction. We have 22 and it's in the thousandths place, so our denominator is going to be 1,000. Again, we notice that we can simplify this. A common factor between 22 and 1,000 is 2. So we will divide both the numerator and denominator by 2. 22 divided by 2 is 11, and 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. Cannot simplify any more, so we're finished. So 0 and 22 thousandths is equal to 11/500ths. We will do one more example of this. 1.37. We notice here that we have a whole number. So we know that when we write this as a fraction, we're going to write it as a mixed number. We would read this as 1 and 37 hundredths because our 7 is in the hundredths place. To write this, we know that we have a whole number. So when we are writing, we will have our whole number out in front, 1. When it comes to writing our fraction, we have 37 hundredths. So our number is 37. And it's in the hundredths place, so we have 100 on the bottom. We know that 37 is a prime number and does not divide into 100, so we cannot simplify this fraction. Okay, so moving on to fractions to decimals. So here we're going to convert fractions into the decimal form. We will start with the example 6/8. When changing fractions into decimals, we know that we have to divide. We use the image in class of thinking like our fraction is a building that's falling over. So from this, we remember that when we are dividing, the numerator, the top number that is, goes inside and the denominator stays on the outside. From here we divide. 8 does not divide into 6, so we place a 0, place a decimal, and bring down another 0. We'll extend that line. Okay. 8 divides into 60 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. We subtract and are left with 4. We bring down another 0 because we do not have a remainder of 0 yet. 40 divided by 8 is 5. 5 times 8 is 40. We subtract and are left with 0. We can now say that 6/8 in the decimal form is 0.75, or 0 and 75 hundredths. Okay, moving on to our example. We will use 9/20. Again, we are going to divide. 9 is in the inside, 20 on the outside. 20 does not divide into 9, so we put a 0, place a decimal, bring down another 0. 20 goes into 90 4 times. 4 times 20 gives us 80. We subtract and are left with 10. We don't have a remainder of 0, so we bring down another 0. 20 fits into 100 5 times, and it goes in evenly. 5 times 20 is 100. We subtract and are left with 0. So we could say that 9/20 in the decimal form is 0 and 45 hundredths. We'll do one more example that's a little bit different. We will work with 18/12. So right away we should be noticing that this is an improper fraction because 18 is larger than 12 and it's the numerator. But we still are going to divide. 18 is inside because it's the numerator and 12 is on the outside. 12 does not go into 1. 12 goes into 18 one time. 1 times 12 is 12. We subtract and are left with 6. We don't have anything else to bring down, but we also don't have a remainder of 0. So this is where we place a decimal and bring down a 0. 12 goes into 60 5 times. 5 times 12 is 60. We subtract and are left with 0. So we notice now that 18/12 in the decimal form is 1 and 5/10. So that was just a quick review of converting decimals to fractions and vice versa, fractions back to decimals.